I am Nikos Balboa, and this is Balboa Park. I am a trans man, Italian, living in France. I've been living here for more than 20 years. I have a teen daughter, but I'm a mom. I'm a tattoo artist, and I do graphic novels in Italy and France. And in this podcast, I want to talk about the creative process and what it means to carry on, even if sometimes it's difficult, sometimes there is fears and doubts. And also, I think it's very important to stay, or to try to stay, to aim to stay connected to this part of us that don't bring judgment on what we do. As I was talking about this in the last episode, or the first episode, the fact that when we paint or we do creative stuff, it's cool to be all alone when we do it. We stay in our presence of inspiration and we enjoy the process. But when we paint or whatever we do, and we all space for fear of judgment or wanting to have approval or all those mental projection, we are not alone painting or doing what you do. And it's difficult to lead a creative process when we are so many people in that moment wanting to hold the brush. In those moments when you are into the creative process, you must tell to all those mental image, all those projection, to step back, to back off, leaving you lead. But then there is a moment in which maybe some of them you want to invite them back, because those fear or those projection, sometimes they are what we need to step back from what we just did in our creative process and take a critical look to what we do. So when in the first episode I said that we just must lean to our creativity and enjoy and trust what we do, this doesn't mean that then we don't have a critical eye to check on what we just did. But you can't do the creative part and the critic part at the same time. It's impossible. You will create something that is, I want to do this, but I'm fear of the judgment, or I want to the approval, or I don't know, and you will create from a place which is not the best place. When you create, you're magical. You are connected to your intuition, or maybe to your source energy, to your core, to your soul. I don't know what are your beliefs, but you are in this space of freedom and joy. Artistically, not all that we create from this place then has a real interest in showing up in the world. Most of the time it is. This is what I think. But then if doing art is your work, is your profession, then there is something else that come into place. The part when we create from the joy, from the feeling, from the intuition, and even if it's not the joy, the feeling that moves us, because maybe we started painting because we felt not very good, or we wanted to process an uncomfortable feeling. When you create from a place of intuition and feeling aligned, it's liberating. It will give you joy. It will make you feel complete. And this is the purpose of an art practice that is some kind of therapeutical, I don't know how to pronounce it in English. I know it very well because when we do the graphic journal club, put a link somewhere to the graphic journal club in the show notes. We don't care about the result. We don't care about the drawing is good or bad. We care about staying in the state to all the space, to all the feeling, and this is afterward is a very good feeling. But when creativity, drawing, illustration or tattooing or I don't know, it's your job, then there is a moment you have to make a selection from what you did, from the flow state, and what you want to share with the others. Once I had a teacher that told me, do you want to show your mess or your message? So when it's your job to create image, at that moment, maybe you just want to show your message and not only your mess. Sometimes it's fun to show also the mess as a creative process on Instagram or on TikTok, I don't know. I found during the years of doing this job with image and relating with people, I find that there is a moment in which you must decide that the practice is for repairing yourself, but then there is a moment in which you share your work, and then it's not about yourself. It's not about repairing yourself, or at least it's not only about repairing yourself. It's about helping others to repair themselves. And when you share your work, the work you did from a connection, inner connection practice, then you are on the right path to share work that will heal others. You will do work that is in a line with who you are. It's a work that is sincere, and most probably it will be a work that will connect to other people. And so this is the purpose of art for me, is connecting human, connecting energies, connecting experiences, and make healing happen. Even if you're not physically there, when you share your work will do something for the person that will see your work, will use your work, or I don't know. But, and this is where your critical part of yourself, the one who want to make sense, the one who want to have the approval of the person, of the gallerist, or the one who's judging the fear, the one who's fearful of being judged of some technicalities or something like this. All those emotions as entities, those who talk about the first episode, maybe you want to sum them up for the part in which you did already the job of creating, and now you sit at the table with them on a decision board with them, and then you want to see if aesthetically, if the work you did, the inspiration you have, for me is like, okay, sometimes can be a sketching part or a studio around some image, around some colors. Those are the part I do alone. And then maybe some of them I like to use the color I like to use, or maybe I want to clean the lines if it's for a tattoo and I want to make the drawing more suitable for being tattooed, or maybe I want to do a Instagram post with some comics, or I'm doing a book. All those different purpose, maybe they will make it necessary to observe and change. I will need to make sense if it's for a Instagram post. Maybe I will have to clean the line or make my handwriting more easy to read, and all those editing part that you do with the part of yourself that can judge in a loving way, but can judge, can make sense, or can make changes with the purpose of make it suitable for the person who will receive it. So if it's for a tattoo, you change the drawing. If it's for a comic book, maybe I want to make it more readable. I want to make it easier for the person who received the drawing to read or to see the drawing. And this is something I learned during the years, because when I was young, or younger, when I was younger, I felt like people who were looking at my art, like I'm doing a face when I say art, because people who are looking at my art must earn it, must go through the difficulty of reading those handwriting that was difficult, or seeing those composition that was messy. And during the years, and also hearing some feedback around my work, I realized that it was my job to create from a place of sincerity within myself, but it was also my job to make it easier for the person who receive it. I brought the example of the handwriting, and I have a very bad handwriting. I don't know how to say in English, but I have, since I was a child, I have difficulty in spelling or in reading, even if I know how a word is spelled. When I was young, I would read it like with letters not in the good space. I would read anyway, and never had so much difficult reading. But I would read a word that would not make sense, because the letters were misplaced, and I would read them misplaced in my mind, and I was like, what is strange word? Now I don't do this anymore. I some kind of make sense of what I read. If I read a misplaced letter, I understand what the word is, because I have learned the number and the letter that are in a word, so I can read anyway. But sometimes when I write, even like handwriting, I do this error a lot. I do a lot of writing errors. So for me, having a good handwriting and a readable word and have a perfect spelling, it's very difficult. So I realized that it's very difficult for me to make an handwriting which is readable. In some way, I like it anyway. So it's a struggle when you do comics, when you do graphic novels, and when my graphic novels, Born to Lose, came out in Italy in 2017. I had some critics that it wasn't easy to read, because this comic book, this graphic novel, came from a selection of my graphic journal. So there were no editing. I was sharing my mess. I didn't share my message. And some of people that were fond of my work, they catch the message. but just because they were willing to put the effort in reading what I do. But not everyone want to put the effort into reading your message inside your mess, and it's okay. You have to do the work. And so for my book, Play with Fire, which is the book that came after, it's a book that it's out in Italy but also in France. And for my book, Transformer, I did this kind of work of putting down on paper my mess and my message within the mess. But then I do a lot of work of editing to put the mess aside and only share the message. So I hope that this will be interesting for you to hear, especially if you are in an artistic field. I thank you to stick with me to the end, despite of my accent. I'm very used to talk with the accent because I've been living in France for more than 20 years, as I was saying, and I have a very strong Italian accent also in French. So thank you for hearing my mess pronunciation and hearing the message through the mess. I'm putting this on Substack, but also on Spotify, and maybe if you want, you can share it, and maybe you can subscribe and do all the things that make work more visible, but just if you like. And I will put in the show note the link to the graphic journal graphic journal club. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye bye.